Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live. Hope you're having a great start to your day. Question and answer Friday. Last day of the year. John Green, you are the first one up today. And Rosalinda Brahim, Portland, Oregon. Raja, how are you? Mike from Norland. Nativity from Aaron. Carrie, Nebraska. Huguette, bonjour. Nicole, Lori, Niagara Falls. Jordan, our dear friend from West Tennessee. Keith, good morning to you. And Joey, Roberta, Pauline, Sandy, Vera, Newfoundland, Meta. How are you? Oh, they all went away. Lynn, good morning. Sue, how are you? And Kevin from Oshawa, how is ya? Jeanette, good to have you on. Luella, West Tennessee. Okay. Is our Dell, how are you? Julie, Sturgeon Falls, Newfoundland, Hazel, Guylaine, how are you? Wendy, good morning. Yolande, how you doing? Janice, I'm going to wish you guys a happy new year at the end of the program. Micheline, Jocelyn, how are you? Deb, Timmons, Vera, and Frida. We got a big crowd coming on. Diane and Faye. Thanks so much for watching. Madeleine, how is you? Patricia, Alabama. Joanne, Karen, good to have you on. Colleen, Donna, and Carol. Kathy. I hate to stop, guys, because I don't want to miss anybody, but Laura, Margaret, two more. Mary Ellen from Woodstock, and Vera. Let's get going. And Meta. Okay, I had to do it. Let's get going. We love you guys. Thanks for coming on. We got some great questions. Both John and Lise, okay? They asked me about apple cider vinegar, but John asked about colostrum. So let me, and Lee says, apple cider vinegar, good for you or not? Well, look, apple cider vinegar, okay? I mean, when it sort of first hit the hit parade about, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe, everybody from coughs, colds to pimples on your nose, it fixed everything, okay? It had such hype, and, because remember, guys, okay, before I did the lives, I had a radio show for 20 years. If you think I didn't get asked about apple cider vinegar every week on my show, because it was hitting, it just sort of became the new kid on the block. And it fixed everything. And you know what? I used to tell people then, 10 years ago, and I think it was 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Not that I don't like apple cider vinegar, okay? Because I used to tell them, I prefer balsamic vinegar. Now, that's a little bit sweeter, but the only thing that it does, I used to tell people, you got digestive issues? Well, taking a little, maybe 1 ounce or 2 of apple cider vinegar, go for it. See if it doesn't relieve the heartburn, because you have low acidity, not enough acidity. So when you add some balsamic vinegar or apple cider vinegar, yeah, I found it good for that. But again, I just remind you, the problem when you have low acidity in your stomach and then your body overreacts and your proton pumps in your stomach start producing more acid. And the problem with that is that acid don't stay in your stomach. It starts to travel up the esophagus. What is that called? Heartburn. Why would you have low acidity in your stomach? Because you're eating too much sugar. It's a problem of insulin. It's a problem. That's what creates, it's the biggest problem in the stomach, is when you're a crappy eater. And usually you can reverse that. You can reverse heartburn when you change your diet. Okay? But I got no problem in the meantime. And here's the other thing with heartburn, okay? Just because I happen to be on that. Don't eat at night. Stop eating after supper. Don't eat. Okay? I call that Netflix syndrome. We want to watch a movie or a TV series and we want to eat. It's the Netflix syndrome, okay? So, and so many people have heartburn and hiatus hernias and all sorts of problems, digestive issues. Say, well, change your diet. You're eating too many crappy carbohydrates and sugar. Stop that. Your stomach will give you a high five when you do. And then don't eat at night. Practice intermittent fasting. Okay? You got digestive problems. Let your digestion have a rest. Many hours before you go to bed. You got to, these are habits, guys. How many days does it take to form a habit? 21. That's what I learned in psychology. If Dr. McEwen is on, okay? That's what I learned, Doc, in psychology, in university. Just enough to make me dangerous. I learned that it took 21 days to form a habit. And then about 6 weeks to really cement that habit. Okay? So, apple cider vinegar, is it good for you? Yeah. Does it fix everything? No. Okay? So when you see all the hype, you know, the mother, you got to get the mother of apple cider vinegar and it, you know, I heard it all. And again, I'm not against it. Okay? Now, I think it was John asking, yes, it was John about colostrum. Well, colostrum, what is colostrum? Well, colostrum is what the baby gets, okay, when you breastfeed, okay? That's why, you know, you have to remember how old I am, okay? So the world went stupid. Sometimes it's still very stupid. But the world went stupid in the 1950s, 60s. Breast milk, there's not enough. You know, it's not, you know, like brought to you by Gerber's. They wanted you to have formula. And then, of course, that's turned now. 180 degrees, where there isn't a doctor in the world, I think, anymore, that wouldn't say, yeah, it's best to breastfeed. Yeah, because you know what I said the other day? nature always wins. Yeah, well, you can't outdo what God wants you to do, and that's breastfeeding. Okay? Because when you're breastfeeding, the baby gets your bacteria. Yep. Probiotics right on your breast. 2, it gets colostrum. Okay? And that's colostrum, when you take it as a supplement, comes from mummy cow once they've had a baby. And they take the colostrum in the first couple of weeks. And do I like it as a supplement? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like colostrum. Does it fix? Because I think, John, you were asking, does it fix leaky gut? Well, certainly not on its own, okay? And apple cider vinegar, is it good for leaky gut? In a way, because if you have more acidity in your stomach, it really helps with digesting of the food. Because leaky gut can come from 2 ways, right? One, from the upper digestion. If you don't digest your food properly, and food comes in too undigested, there's a lot of autoimmune that takes place because of that. Bad stomach is not good, okay? And yeast can get from the stomach into the bowel. Now, the other way it happens, of course, and I talk to you guys about this all the time, leaky gut occurs, you take antibiotics, you take, all the crappy foods, you feed the bears, sugar feeds candida, and then you have an invasion. You don't have enough friendly bacteria, you have too much bad bacteria, and then you have an invasion of the third army, which is yeast. Deadly. Slow death. Because yeast invades, and it'll get through that little border called the blood-gut border. Not endothelial, that's your blood vessels, epithelial cells. And they're just bacteria, guys. They're good guys. They're on your side. But when they're not there anymore, that's why I'm so careful when I talk to you about antibiotics. Because antibiotics are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, they are. Greatest invention. Greatest invention in medicine. Okay? Give medicine a high five for antibiotics. They save people's lives, and they still do every day. But it's a double-edged sword. Antibiotics. And the new studies on antibiotics, I was right. I said this 40-something years ago. When you take an antibiotic, stop. When you have no more symptoms. Because the pharmaceutical companies were wrong. And they've admitted this now. Antibiotics, you just don't stay on them. Oh, stay on them because that bacteria might come back. No, what they know is if you go too far with the antibiotic, you're going to kill all your good guys. 5 days, all your good guys are gone. Okay? Now you have leaky gut. Plus, you have an invasion of the army yeast. Okay? That's what we call dysbiosis. Leave it up to medicine to give us a big word. Okay? It's an invasion of yeast. Okay, so is colostrum good? Yeah, I like colostrum. I wouldn't spend any money on it, but okay? Babies need colostrum. Mommy gives it to them. Okay? Now, okay, so John and Lise, thanks for those questions. Hannah, hey, Doc, what are you eating today? Well, you have to remember, I'm married to the #1 cook in the world, and I mean that, okay? And she's Italian. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm a very disciplined person. I have to be. I got bad genetics. I got diabetes coming out both ears. My dad had diabetes. My grandfather had diabetes. I look like my father. I told you that yesterday. And I just know myself. I got to be extremely careful. And I try and, Hannah, I try and practice what I preach. I don't think, there probably is a few people, but there's probably not a lot of people that eat more meat, eggs, and cheese than I do. There probably are some, but not many. So what I tell you every day, I practice. Does that mean I never have a carbohydrate? No, it doesn't mean that. When I'm doing the reset, okay? But, and when Rosie makes her pasta, we don't have it much. I have a little bit of noodles and 20 meatballs. How's that? And the meat sauce. That's me. For me, okay, I don't have a lot of fruit. Do I like fruit? I love fruit. But I don't live on it. If I have a banana a month, that would be a treat. I hardly ever eat apples. I hardly ever eat grapes. I love them. But because of my body and the way my insulin is, and for me, and for anybody that's in the 88% that are metabolically unwell, then fruit become God's candies. Proceed with caution. Okay? And I know fruit are good for you. Okay? I know. But what's more important is your insulin. So if you were to follow me around for a day, I am very disciplined, okay? I have to be. And remember what I said about the 21 days? Let me tell you a little bit of story about myself. In grade 13, okay? Now, you guys, young people don't even know what grade 13 is. It used to be considered 1 year, the first year of university, except you were still in high school. In grade 13, because my dad became a diabetic, my dad changed his life. I watched him. My dad was my hero. I watched him. Okay? I wrote a book years ago about my father's story. Okay? And I compared him to a good friend of his. We'll call him Ed. That was his first name. I'm not going to go into any more detail. So my dad and Ed. Now, Ed's son was a friend of mine. We went to high school together. And my dad and his dad found out they were diabetics. To me, it was on the same day, but who knows? Okay, within a very short period of time, they both found out they were diabetics. Okay? And in my house, it was a radical change because my dad, now you got to remember now, this is 1968. My dad comes home, tells the family that he's a diabetic, and I knew my dad wasn't well for a bit, and that worried me. And anyway, the story is this. My dad, the next day, not kidding you, true story, started jogging on the spot. Now, 1968, the only people that ran were running away from the police, okay? There was no jogging. You didn't go outside and, oh, there's somebody running, which is much more common today, right? My dad was the first jogger that I ever met. And I said, Dad, what are you doing? Well, he said, I'm a diabetic. I got to get in shape. Oh, okay. In shape. What's that mean? And, but I love my dad so much. I said, Dad, you're getting up early in the morning to jog. Wake me up. I'm going with you. That's a true story. But I watched my father in our house steak. I'm not even exaggerating. My mother made us a meal and then made my dad would come home late from practice, always ate on his own because we already ate. And then my dad would come home and I often would just sit right beside him and because my dad, like I said, a hero. And I just sit there and he'd have his steak every night. And I'm not kidding you. I said, Dad, aren't you tired of that? He said, well, I'm a diabetic. Me and carbs don't get along. Now, I didn't even know what a carb was. Now, I tell you that story to tell you the story of Ed. Ed, because remember now, his son was one of my good friends. Ed didn't change his diet. Ed didn't exercise. Ed just kept going. He got on medication, but in 5 years, Ed was gone. He died. Now, all I'm saying to you, when you ask me what I eat, I learned that back in the 60s. When I went to school, nutrition, 2,000 hours of it. It's crazy. But they were teaching me something different. You need a balanced diet. You can't live without carbs. Cholesterol is bad for you. I got taught that. But, Hannah, I knew better because of my father. He knew what to do for diabetes. He knew that him and sugar didn't get along. Him and carbs didn't get along. I got the memo when I was living at home. And in grade 13, I never, ever, ever, and I mean this, have ever had another soda. Did you know that? Because I used to love soda. I never had another pop. Now, I had a few diet pops. Ooh, they were terrible. My dad drank Tab and Splenda. Not Splenda. What's the other one? Tab and, oh, they were terrible stuff. And the odd time I'd have a little bit, and ooh, I hated that stuff. But it's habits, guys. Okay? And for me, I never had another chocolate bar, ever. Not one. Because I just knew that wasn't good for me. My dad didn't have that. He said, that's sugar, son. You can't have, I can't have it. He didn't say, he said he couldn't have it. He didn't tell me not to have it, but I watched him. So that's where I come from, guys. Long ago. I mean, that's over 50 years ago, guys. But I knew better. Even so, when I got taught nutrition, I studied it. I loved it. There was a lot of good stuff in there. But when they used to tell me about the balanced diet, nah, I never bought it. When they used to tell me, not too much meat, that it's not true. And it was because already the cereal companies were taking over the education of dietitians and things like that. They were taking over. Well, you got to have your oatmeal. That's good for you. It's got fiber. And I'm telling you guys, I got taught fiber. And I said it then, and I'll say it today. Fiber is overrated. You don't win a big prize for having the biggest poo. Okay? There's no prizes for it. And I used to tell people, nah. So I've been very consistent, guys. Very consistent. So, Hannah, thanks for the question. People ask that every week, by the way. What does the doc eat? Well, like I said, that's the way I eat. Does it mean I never cheat? Never have? Look, when my wife makes pasta, but I realize it's not the noodles that I like. It's not the spaghetti that I like. It's the sauce. It's her meatballs. It's the sausages. You die for that stuff. I live on that. Okay. Good question, Hannah. And I went on for a long time, didn't I? Okay. Well, it's the last day of the year. Why can't I? Okay. Rita, what does it mean to have low potassium levels? Well, if you have low potassium levels, there's a couple of things. One, the most people that have low potassium are people on medications. And the number one reason your potassium levels go down can be very dangerous is when they put you on blood pressure medication, especially diuretics. Okay? And you got to be very careful with that. Low potassium can give you cramps and not only muscle cramps and that, but your heart's a muscle. Got to be very careful. Okay? So, now the other reason is, and I mentioned this yesterday, kidneys are operated by a very complex hormonal system. And when everything is in balance, your kidneys run good. But here's what I always tell you will throw your kidneys off and can give you very low potassium levels. One, when you're a carboholic. It always comes back to that, isn't it? Because when you're a carboholic, it affects your kidneys big time. Affects your liver, for sure, and kidneys, too. Secondly, when you get dehydrated, okay, kidneys are Niagara Falls. You need to drink water, and only water is water. And 80% or more of the population, they don't know it because there's not a little light bulb on their head that says you are dehydrated. And they insist, most of them are men, they insist, I don't need water, I don't like water, I don't like the taste of water. I like juice. I'd rather drink this. Ooh. Quit being a big baby. Suck it up, buttercup. Your kidneys need water. Your kidneys are Niagara Falls. Go to Niagara Falls in the morning, go in the afternoon, go at night, and what will you see? Water flowing. Okay? That's your kidneys. Because your kidneys, you need to keep it clean. Detox. And it'll really mess up your electrolytes if you don't drink enough water. And I like spring water or Himalayan salt. Now, somebody else asked a question. I got to get going because I've been really being stupid here. Okay, Rita. But who else? Oh, Lynn is asking, I only use Himalayan salt now. Well, Himalayan salt is wonderful. Why? It's got 84 minerals in it. It has all your trace minerals. Okay, Lynn? And Rita, so drink water and get off the stinking carbs and sugars. Do the reset with me if you got problem with your potassium levels. Now, Lynn is asking another question. Do I need iodine? Well, not if you eat eggs, meat, and cheese. One of the highest sources of iodine is in meat. It's in eggs. Eggs is a perfect food. It's got iodine for your thyroid. And one of the reasons we see so much thyroid problems, one of the reasons, is when people are carboholics. And I got to be careful. I can only have 1 egg a week. You know how many people told me that in practice? 1 or 2 eggs a week. My cardiologist told me that. Because of cholesterol. I said, well, your cardiologist, you should have gone to your plumber. Because your plumber knows more about nutrition than your cardiologist does. And look, guys, doesn't mean I don't love your cardiologist, okay? It's just they don't know anything about nutrition. Himalayan salt has iodine in it. But if you're eating eggs, meat, and cheese, you don't need. Look, if you got a thyroid problem, I have a thyroid formula with iodine in it. But it's not just iodine. I got selenium, I got ashwagandha, I got everything that you want in a thyroid formula. Okay? So, good question. And I'm ranting, and I promise. Oh, here's another thyroid. Guylaine, is it true that the long-term use of thyroid meds can affect your calcium levels? Absolutely it can. That's one of its side effects is osteoporosis. And this is why I always tell people, look, your thyroid is a puppet. It's got a lot of strings attached to it. You gotta look at everything. And ladies, I talk to you mostly because people, not that men can't have thyroid problems, but it's mostly women. Why? Always ask the question, why is it mostly women? 90 to 10. No, it's 95 to 5. Women get thyroid problems compared to men. 95% to 5. There's a reason for it. It's called hormones. Women are complicated. They got ovaries. Ovaries complicate the universe. No, seriously, they do. Because for the thyroid to work properly, it's got to have balance between your ovaries, your cortisol, your liver, your gut. There's a lot of strings attached. Okay? So, and one of the problems with thyroid medication, it doesn't fix all of that. It manages it, but it doesn't fix it. And then you take a med, and I'm not telling you not to take a med. All I'm saying is, yep, it's one of the side effects is osteoporosis. So is high blood pressure. So is heart problems. So I'm always big on fixing the problem rather than managing it, okay? So if you go on our website and I don't know even how to do it, but get in our courses, take the thyroid, take the hormonal course, okay? The storm. I think it's on our website, isn't it? Ask Jeanette, ask Nicole, ask Brandy. Okay. And what is a good fasting insulin level? Well, I don't care so much because I don't look at that so much, Ann. And I don't mean to dismiss it because I'm a big guy on insulin, you know that. But as far as the blood test, I don't find it to be all that accurate, okay? It's supposed to be under 25. What is it? MUL, I don't know. But I don't look at that. I'm more interested in your A1C. Okay? because that tells me more about your insulin. I'm more interested in your triglycerides than HDL. That tells me more than insulin fasting levels, because if I can look at your triglycerides and your HDL, I can tell you what your insulin is. If you have insulin resistance, because that's what I'm looking for. Okay? So I don't want to be dismissive, Ann. Okay? If you get fasting insulin tests, send it to me. But I want your triglycerides, I want your HDL, and I want your A1C. Because that gives me a better picture. That's what I look for. Okay? So, good question. And a couple of more here, and we're done. Melissa was just asking about what happens when my thyroid was 3.8, has gone to 10. Well, Melissa, you probably got some form of Hashimoto's or Graves. Autoimmune, like your body's turning on itself. But again, if you go to our teaching on the thyroid, you gotta look at other reasons, Melissa, because the thyroid doesn't act on its own. It just doesn't. And that's why so many people fall through the cracks. Okay, Francis, my daughter was on, here we go with hormones again. My daughter was on birth control at 16. Why was she on birth control? Because she had very bad periods. And again, what does medicine do? They want to manage that. And that's all. Okay, I understand it. Okay. And they usually give you estrogen in the birth control pill. Okay? Horse's urine. That's how they make it. Okay? And there's a lot of side effects to that. And she wants to get off the birth control. Okay? Probably wants to have a baby. What should she do for those terrible times of the month? I tell you something, okay? Let me tell you something on the last day of the year. If man ever had one period, he would shoot himself. Because we're big babies. Oh, okay? When you have bad menses, hormones, you have too much estrogen compared to your progesterone. Got to fix that. That's why I dim out your estrogen. Our hormonal formula, that's why I love it. It dims it out. And that's what you got to do. You got to get that estrogen down. It's not that you don't have enough estrogen. You got too much. You're too much of a woman. Take it from me. Okay? Sheila, doctor told me about cluster headaches, okay? Hold it. My friend has cluster headaches. What's the cause? Hormones. Too much estrogen. Not enough progesterone. Add in cortisol and you got cluster headaches. Migraines too. These are always symptoms of hormonal issues. And cortisol just adds fuel to the fire. Stress. Fuel to the fire. Cluster headaches. Get on the reset. Change your diet. Fix your hormones. What a difference that makes. Okay. Okay, guys. Thanks for your patience. I did some rants today, but I can't help myself. And, okay, so who's starting the reset next week? Okay, now I talked to you about this yesterday. Let us know on our private Facebook group if you're starting, just because we're going to pump your tires up, okay? You want to start, the 1st is tomorrow, so if you want to go through the weekend, let's officially make it on the 3rd, but if you want to start tomorrow, go for it. Eggs, meat, and cheese for 30 days, if this is your first. I'm telling you guys, it'll change your life. Now, for those who've done the reset, you want to do a shorter version of it, a week, it'll empty your liver. You just want to get back on track and you've already done the first reset, you can do a week. If you want to do 30 days, If you're starting for the first time, that's what we recommend, okay? The 30-day program, it fixes, man, insulin resistance. It fixes it, okay? And it'll form habits. And you'll know more about nutrition, believe you me, than 99.9% of the population. You'll figure it out and you'll realize how good this is for you. When you lay off all those crappy carbohydrates with the crappy oils and the sugars, what a difference it makes in your life. Okay? Good. Okay, guys, we love you. Now, Monday, I'm going to be on in the afternoon. Okay? So I'm just telling you ahead of time, we'll post that. I'm going to be on going into the new year, Mondays and Thursdays afternoons. Okay? So, talk to you soon. Love ya. Happy New Year.